Okay, on behalf of Kopi Jindal University, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you. We are about to start with the session. The students, but before that, let me do just a bit of an outlook and ask you questions. You know what the session is all about, right? No idea? It says something about law, right? So what comes to your mind the moment I say the word law? One by one, raise your hand. It's a small game which we'll play. Yeah, what comes to your mind the moment we say the word law? Nothing? Silence? Come on. Yeah. Rules and regulations. A very informed answer. Yeah. What else? Articles. Oh. Again an informed answer. What more? Sorry? Justice. Great. Yeah. Judiciary. Awesome. You won't believe it, this was not exactly the scenario a few years back. Now, myself a lawyer, and I did my 5 years law. And I belong to a South Indian family, so the moment, few years from now, when I discussed that I want to do law, believe me, my parents even had thoughts of disowning me. They said, "You're pagal ho chuka hai." What is he doing up to? But you won't believe it was a very informed decision at that age for me, because there are certain influences in our life which always inspire us to do something. And as a kid, I was someone who used to inquire a lot, had a sense of inquiry, and I was mesmerized by the fact that it's always decision making or there's something called a speculation which really interests me a lot. And I met someone from the law school who told me that the country is divided into two parts. One is people who develop the country, who work for it, and there are others who are decision makers. And he said, decision makers are often those who have something to do with law or humanities as a subject, as a whole. Then I started reading about it further. And I had made up my mind that yes, I want to be a decision maker rather than someone who works. Because that was not my orientation. Nothing against them, but that was not my orientation. Because I had good communication skills, I had an analytical brain, I always thought this is something which I can do. Further, when I did law, I met another student of mine who happened to be the All India rank one of PLAT. You understand PLAT? Common Law Admission Test? Yeah. And I was very mesmerized to hear that this guy was a scholarship student in Kota, Rajasthan, you all know, right? Yeah. The hub of engineering entrance coachings. But then he quit engineering and he came to us. So one day over coffee I asked him, what prompted you to do this? You know what was his answer? That's what you students are. Because during our time, the scenario was very different. He says, sir, I was preparing, and there was one of my cousins who is an IIT IIM who had come down from Diwali holiday. I just happened to go and visit him to get some snippets about how to crack the JEE examination. To which he told me a story that made me change my entire script. I said, what was that story? He was like, the moment I entered, he started telling me that, please, do law. To which he asked why. He said, the reason is, when I went to engineering college, engineering is not about just studies, it's also about leadership qualities. So in IIT, I got leadership qualities. But then when I was recruited, any industry is again divided into two halves, production and management. I was never into management, I was into production. And whenever I started thinking about something leadership, it never happened. So I took a year drop, I prepared for CAT, I cracked CAT, went to IIM, did 2 years of MBA, and then I reached management. You getting it? And in that management, I already had a lawyer who was working. And whenever I used to decide something or take policy decisions, there was a lawyer who often used to come and tell me, no, that is not legally right. You understand that? That's exactly the key. So many other things will be discussed here. And to welcome our guests for today.
Very good morning, everyone. It's a very special day and special occasion that all of you are here. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary. On 30th September, the university completed 10 years. It's a very special year and time for us. All of you are bright students from schools. In universities, we early did school students. So I'm really excited and delighted to welcome all of you to OP Jindal Global University. In a way, it's your own university, very close to your place. And Sonipat, the place is associated with the university and each of you. So in a way, it's a great occasion to be here. And without any delay, I would like to invite Professor C. Rajkumar, our founding Vice Chancellor, to introduce the theme and to introduce the speaker to you. And we'll go ahead with the lecture. Thank you.
Yes, that's Mark.
Very good morning to all of you. So, I suppose all of you are from the 12th standard or is there any 11th standard student here?
There will be time.
Anybody from 11th? There is 11th as well. Okay, great. Okay, very good. So, first of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to OP Jindal Global University. How many of you have been to this campus before? Raise your hand fully. There are a few of you. Okay, great. Well, for all of you who have not been to the campus, it's your first visit, so I'm very delighted to host you here on campus. So the purpose of this, visit is to really give you a perspective of why the study of law can be a transformative experience and how you can essentially, through law, change the world. So before we go to the substance of the talk, the lecture, and also my effort to introduce the key speaker, how many of you in this room, only the students, would like to change the world for better? How many of you would like to change the world for better? Can we? How many of you would like to change the world for better? More, let's see. Is there anybody in this room who feels that the world is already so perfect, it's absolutely perfect, that it does not require any change? Is there anybody who feels that way? The world is so perfect that it doesn't need any more change. Well, fantastic. I'm happy to hear that. So all of you are deeply committed to a sense of idealism. Then you want to change the world. In fact, when you are young, you actually end up having that sense of idealism much deeper. And as one grows older and older and older, that particular aspiration tends to fade away. People start thinking, you know what can I do? I'm just a small individual. I'm just working in this company. I'm just working in this NGO. I'm just working in this one little place, in one little city, one little town, one little country. And that aspiration begins to fade and ultimately, unfortunately, even it dies. So the hope that we have for you is that you will remember that this is the vision on the basis of which you came into this campus. You wanted to change the world, and that is why you are here today. You may study wherever, you may do whatever work, you may study law, not study law, you may end up doing many things in your life. But as of today, on 16th October 2019, when you were asked the question, do you want to change the world? You overwhelmingly said, yes indeed, that you wanted to change the world. And that's a very big, let's say, optimism for the future. Because if young people like you are going to be embarking on a journey to change the world for the better, then relatively older people like us can feel more confident about the future. Because India is a young nation. India is about all of you and less of us. Do you know that 850 million people in India, 850 million people in India are less than 35 years of age? Did you know that? I used to be less than 35. I'm not. Steve was less than 35 before. He's not. Most of us are not less than 35. But all of you are. And you constitute 850 million people of this country. And along with this, Indian life expectancy is now approximately 71. Which means that when most parts of the Western world become older, United States and Europe, North America, Canada, Australia, and most parts of the Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older. China because of its population policy, and Japan because of its own, Japanese people's own mindset about, having children and things like that. Indian life expectancy, in terms of healthcare benefits, at the dawn of independence, Indian life expectancy was around 35. And today, it's over 70. We have doubled our life expectancy in the last 70 plus years, which means Indians are living longer and will be able to reap the benefits of the demographic dividend that is going to shape the future of not only India, but the world. So as you assume a leadership role in the world, not just in India, but in the world, as lot of you, 1.4 billion people, so 850 million people are young people like you have a very big responsibility. You are going to shape the future of the world. And that means you have to marry that vision that you just told me, that you want to change the world for the better. So, I want to start by saying that changing the world for the better has been the aspiration of people around the world, particularly young people, because they want to see a better tomorrow. And it's important that this aspiration needs to be kept alive even when you are constantly made to experience difficult situations. You are seeing pain and suffering. You are seeing injustice out there. You are seeing people engaging in violence. You are seeing hypocrisy. You are seeing all kinds of problems around you, including problems of poverty, problems of human rights violations, problems of violations of law. You pretty much see this every day in India and around the world. And you also see that leaders of our own countries around the world are not necessarily inspiring to develop that sense of optimism for the future. Even under difficult circumstances, you have to keep that faith that the possibility of changing the world is with each one of you as you shape the future. So changing the world for the future is a very, very important and almost a central aspiration of all of us. Most of us, if not all of us in universities, are deeply committed to the idea of building a better future. And as young people who are aspiring to build a better future and to change the world for the better, there is no constituency which is better suited than a university which can help you achieve that goal and aspiration. I want to quickly shift to the idea of law. Why law and legal institutions matter, and how changing the world through law is one of the most noblest aspirations you can have. Of course, all of you know, and I'm going to ask a question like a typical professor can do. What is law? You smile. I caught you. What is law?
So, law will be seen as some rules and regulations, some restrictions on our freedom.
Fantastic. So she gave a beautiful response. Law is about rules and regulations, and she added something quite extraordinary, which is about restrictions or limitations on freedom. That's a great response. It is. Law is that as well. Any other response? What is law? Please. Wow, law is the command of sovereign. You read Austin, is that how you picked up? That's amazing, very impressive. Law is command of the sovereign. That's what actually you read in the first year class of jurisprudence. As one of the jurists said, law is command of the sovereign. And of course, we can talk about what is command, what is sovereign, and all of that. But I'll leave it for another discussion. Great response. Any other response from the back benches out there? What is law? Anybody? Please, all answers are, please, yeah. Absolutely, it's about doing the right thing, and you know that's absolutely a critical element of law. Law is about doing the right thing, and I suppose it could mean morals and ethics and many things that one can believe as the right thing. Great response. Any others? Any others right there? I'm going to get one for them. What is law? When you think of law, what occurs to your mind? Here? Anybody? I'm going to pick on you now. Anybody? One more response we need. What is law? Yes, you.
Implementing rules and doing things according to it in the country.
Excellent. I mean, you're all very smart. All of you have great responses. You took that to the next level. It's about implementing rules and regulations in a country. So all these responses, by the way, are. So a round of applause for all of you. It's a great set of responses about what is law. In fact, you're already in the right path, thinking about what this is law. Now, the point which I think is very important for us to recognize is that we believe, and I'm speaking here as a lawyer, but also as a law professor, but also somebody who has been deeply engaged with law, that we believe that we can effectively change the world through law. And that is the theme of today's lecture. And I'm going to quickly introduce. But this belief in the idea of law is deeply embedded in our civilizational heritage. It is deeply embedded in our historical context. It is also deeply embedded in our freedom struggle and in the development of our democracy and our institutions. In fact, long ago, if you look at our own historical context, the idea of the fact that however high you may be, the law is above you, a notion of rule of law was deeply embedded in our literature, in our heritage, where kings who used to rule the country, they were conscious of the fact that their legitimacy to rule effectively was based upon the acceptability of the people. And if they do commit, mistakes, crimes, whatever, the fact that there are laws that are above them was also part of the civic and political culture. And of course, some of them have written about it, there have been historical context to it. And of course, in the long evolution of over 2,000-3,000 years of history and civilization, law has played a very big role. Not necessarily as we understand today, but law did play a very important role. Of course, the Indian freedom struggle is an extraordinary example of the enormous faith of the people who fought the freedom struggle, believing in the notions of the rule of law. Now that makes it even more interesting, because if you look at the key leaders of our freedom struggle, they were all lawyers. Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer. Jawaharlal Nehru was a lawyer. Sardar Patel was a lawyer. Rajendra Prasad was a lawyer. Dr. Ambedkar was a lawyer. Muhammad Ali Jinnah was a lawyer. In fact, all the leading figures of the Indian freedom movement who end up constituting the founding cabinet of Pandit Nehru happened to be lawyers. Lawyers led the freedom movement, fought against the British colonialism, fought against injustice, resisted the colonial rulers, and indeed helped us achieve freedom. They were conscious of the importance of freedom and justice, deeply embedded in the political and civic culture of our nation, and they fought against it. And in fact, Gandhi fought against that not only on the basis of creating a new India, but also was resisting the laws that were used at times to discriminate against people. So in some ways, the story of Indian independence and the development of Indian democracy was based upon those struggles by these lawyers and others to fight against oppressive laws. Can you believe it? Oppressive laws. I mean, that sounds, law is expected to create justice, but there have been laws which are themselves discriminatory. And then what do you do? How do you deal with, at one level we want to change the world for the better through law, but part of the problem of the world that we live in is because of those bad laws which are themselves discriminatory and creates a sense of injustice. So we need to work towards changing that law. And that changing the law has different connotations in different parts of the world. For example, the history of untouchability in our own country, how Dalits in particular have been discriminated for centuries, and even today they face discrimination. Religious minorities, for example, including Muslims and Christians and people who belong to other faiths, they have been discriminated, and we have laws that are expected to resist against the discrimination. And it's not a uniquely Indian problem. There have been discrimination against the blacks in the United States, for example. They fought that struggle through civil rights movement, and they went through an enormous struggle and continue to face those challenges in those countries. So in some ways, and of course we know the continuing struggle relating to gender, for example. Women around the world, including India, are even today struggling to uphold the sense of equality and justice that is part of the aspiration of every society. Laws are working towards seeking that sense of justice, and we are constantly undermined by those inabilities of societies to address those fundamental challenges relating to gender, or for that matter religion, or caste, or race, or other prejudices that are deeply embedded in society. So through law, we can indeed change the world, and that is the vision on the basis of which these people have fought the freedom struggle. So I want to end by saying that as young people, it's important for you to have faith in the future. It's important for you to anchor your faith. Many of us have different aspects of anchoring our faith, and all of those anchorings are important. But it is also important for you to be responsible citizens. Responsible global citizenry was what we would call cosmopolitanism, in the sense that the idea of we are part of a larger continuum of humanity where any injustice anywhere that happens in the world is injustice everywhere. You care about the future of law and justice because you are part of humanity. The Africans would call it the concept of Ubuntu, where we are all part of an interconnected world, where any injustice anywhere or anything that affects any aspect of humanity affects you because you are human. And that is the vision that law does. And many a time, law falls short of that vision when it comes to actual implementation, when it comes to actual enforcement. So the theme of this lecture today is to inspire you and to engage with you with the idea of law and how we can change the world for the better through law. So I invite you to be part of this lecture. As I end my remarks, I have the greatest privilege and honor to introduce my very dear friend and mentor, Professor Stephen P. Marks from Harvard University. Let's give him a round of applause. Stephen P. Marks is a very distinguished professor at Harvard University. His areas of specialization include international law, international human rights law, public international law, and human rights and development, and the intersections of human rights and development. Professor Marks has had the privilege to have studied at Stanford University and many other institutions. He spent almost half of his life as a professor at Columbia University. Before that, he was a senior official at the United Nations, and for the last over 15 years or more, he has been a professor at Harvard University. Steve has been an active member of our faculty. He spends almost half a year at Jindal, teaches here, pursues his research here, and a visiting professor here, and has been working and thinking about how global justice can help humanity achieve its full potential, full aspirations through the intersection of human rights and development. We are very, very grateful to Professor Marks for accepting our invitation to deliver the public lecture on the theme Changing the World Through Law. When he finishes the lecture, we will also take questions, and towards the end, we will also do one of the important aspects of this today's event, which is to launch a new program at Jindal Global Law School, which is the Bachelor of Arts in Honors in Legal Studies, the first and only program in the whole of India focusing on undergraduate studies in law. Thank you very much.
After what the Vice Chancellor just said, why do you need to listen to me? Well, there are two other reasons why you shouldn't bother listening to me. The Vice Chancellor is talking to you from his experience in founding a university with a law school in India, and his experience with Indian history and with growing up in India. I didn't grow up in India. I grew up in another country. He founded a law school in India. I went to law schools in the United States. It's a different system. So what am I up here for? Maybe I should leave. Okay, bye. I'll stay for a while longer. What I'd like to do, first of all, I'm going to speak to you. The difference between my talk and the topic is the same, so you know the same. We're going to talk about changing the world through law. What does that really mean? Well, your definitions of law impressed me very much, as they did the Vice Chancellor. You got at the heart of the matter. Raj expressed the challenge of that understanding of law as you envisage how you can maintain your commitment to making this a better world. I am going to try to reflect back when I was your age. How many people here are 16 years old? Please raise your hand. 16? Oh, most of you. Okay. 15? 17? Okay. So that's it, essentially. And that's the perspective I'm going to give you. What was I thinking at that time? So, developing an awareness of law as a team. And what I'm going to reflect with you about is what inspires a teenager to study law. Because I've been there, done that. And to prepare for this, I said, well, what was I doing at that age? And then the second part of my talk is going to be on using law in a career that is not the typical career of a lawyer. You know what lawyers are like. You know what they wear when they go to court. You know what they do in the law firms. You know that they're the ones that handle complex issues of contracts and business issues and insurance issues and things like that. Yes, that's law. That's one version of law. But that's not the only version of law. And law to change the world is a much broader concept, which I'm going to try to talk about. How is law relevant to a professional life outside the traditional practice of law? I did not sit in a law office, work for a law firm, write contracts, litigate before judges on behalf of my client, and that sort of thing. But law is relevant to my entire life. So those are the 2 points that I'm going to talk about. How I developed an awareness of law as a team, and how I developed used law in my career. We have to move to the next slide. There, I got it. No, one more shot. There we go. Okay, so here's the first point. What inspires a teenager to study law? In my own personal life, I can go back to when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I was born in San Francisco. Anybody been to San Francisco, California? 1.
Raise your hand, raise your hand. 1,
2, 3, okay.
There's one here, there's 4.
San Francisco was not only the birthplace of Stephen P. Marx, but it was the birthplace of the United Nations organization. And it so happened that my father worked for a company that produced paper. And the president of that company was the ambassador to the United States. And he utilized the best paper they could have to print copies of the founding document of the United Nations in San Francisco, the United Nations Charter. And as a child, growing up in that period, what we call the post-World War II period, I was acutely aware of the fact that the world was recovering from global destruction due to the war that was conducted on all continents, a world war. A horrible thing. And as a child, I was trying to grapple with that. And one of the things that helped me grapple with that, an enormous amount, was the Charter of the United Nations. The Charter of the United Nations reaffirmed the faith in fundamental human rights and dignity and worth of the human person. I didn't know what that meant, but it sounded good. And they wanted to establish conditions under which respect for justice and the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained. So that's where the spark began. Somehow, we were going to save the world from the scourge of war that was fresh in everybody's mind. My father participated in that war. To preserve us from the scourge of war by building a new world order on the basis of human rights and the rule of law. And part of that was, as you can see from the quotation, the progressive development of international law and its codification. That's one of the things that the UN was all about. And I was scratching my head as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old saying, well, this must be important. This must be really the greatest task you can attach yourself to. I didn't think about law as law. It was an odd thing that I understood. Who's this picture of? Is that Narendra Modi? No. Is that Siraj Kumar? No. That's a 15-year-old child. 15-year-old young person. And at that point in my life, not only was there my recollections of the Charter of the United Nations and my pride of having been born in the same city as the United Nations, and reading that charter that still hangs on my wall, that particular version of the charter that you saw in the picture. But we were also going through a radical transformation in the United States due to the failure of American society to live up to the aspirations of the Emancipation Proclamation 100 years earlier to liberate African Americans from segregation and discrimination. We were failing. And the law was not helping, because the law was 100 years old and it hadn't done anything. So law was part of the problem, because what I was observing as a child were laws that required black children and white children to go to separate schools. That was the law. So, is that the law we want? Of course not. It's not the law we want, but it's the law. So, law reflects existing power relations. And because they reflect existing power relations, white people are in charge, segregation cannot be legislated away. That was a tough problem. What good does it do to adopt laws? And here I was, thinking this is unacceptable. That black kids cannot go to school with white kids. Absolutely unacceptable. And yet, the law was not helping. The law was reflecting the domination of white people over black people. So, the law is evil. Somebody said so. The law restricts, you said, the law restricts our freedoms. So who wants to devote your life to law when law is simply a means of preserving the privileges of those who are in power? But at the same time, this young man, young boy, whatever you want to call me, was exposed to another idea. Law as part of the solution. law can contribute to social change and advance justice, and therefore legislation can be a tool to eliminate segregation. So if we have laws that are unjust, we need to struggle to overcome them. And we need to utilize the law to advance human progress. And that's the big challenge that confronted me at that time. The law goes in both directions. And how do we understand how we in our lives can influence law in the right direction? And at this time, you've all heard of Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King Jr., who received the Nobel Prize and so on. And he made this enormous speech, which I watched on television. I didn't go to Washington. I was in California at the time. I never left California, so I was a little local boy. In August 1963, he gave this speech at the time of the March on Washington. Of all the people, white people and black people, but especially black people, who said, enough is enough. We have waited 100 years. And as King said, and we are not free. 100 years later. And he also reflected on the nature and role of law. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Now, this should begin to be familiar for you, because disobeying unjust laws through non-violent means was the message of who in Indian history? Mahatma Gandhi, of course. So this was what was happening in my youth, was that the success of decolonization in India and the message of Gandhiji, which inspired Martin Luther King in the greatest social transformation that was taking place in my lifetime during my youth, was to understand that we have a responsibility to disobey unjust laws. So what is the law? If the law is legislating against freedoms, then we should be fighting for freedom. So what is the role of law then? It's the negative side of law. So, sorry. One more quote from King. He said, commit yourself to the noble struggle for human rights. You will make a greater person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world we live in. This is a message that echoes Martin Luther King very clearly. I think you can understand the similarity of perspectives on how law can be used to change the world, and those particular dimensions of law that capture the essence of human freedom are what we call human rights. There was another great struggle going on that was also related to racial discrimination and segregation, was of course apartheid in South Africa. You were born after apartheid was gone from South Africa. I grew up with apartheid happening in South Africa. It challenged the whole world, because apartheid in South Africa was exactly what you were describing law as doing. South Africa was a rule of law country. Laws counted. Laws were respected. Laws were determined, were voted by the legislature, were enforced by the courts on objective utilization of the law. But what was the law? The law instituted apartheid, the separation of the races. So, this example of a beach that says white persons own this beach and the amenities thereof have been reserved for white persons only by order of the provincial secretary. That's law. And that was the kind of law that we needed to resist. But in South Africa, it was impossible to change the law unless and until the movement led by Nelson Mandela and supported the world over challenged those structures. And there's Mandela down there, you know his message and role and his efforts through the African National Congress to utilize not only non-violent means, but also the tough choice of using violent means, struggle for national liberation. And at the same time, all over the world, the example of Gandhi was not always followed. in the struggle against colonialism. Struggles of national liberation were violent struggles. Struggles of national liberation, were led to wars of liberation, in which those who wanted to be free from the yoke of colonialism armed themselves and struggled to overcome the legally established regime of colonialism. So there was the challenges of this young person that you saw in that picture, who was trying at your age to understand the world and what my role would be in it once I grew up and finished my studies. Gandhi said that there is a higher court than courts of justice, and that the court of conscience, that is the court of conscience, it supersedes all other courts. Well, there's a real challenge to the legal system. That's reflecting the idea that we saw in King and others, that law should be disobeyed when it is unjust. The first thing you must always bear in mind is to make your profession subservient to the interests of, is not to make your profession subservient to the interests of your purse, but to use your profession for the service of your country. He is talking about a person trained in law. If you have the skills, and there he is dressed in his legal outfit when he was a practicing lawyer in London, law is a profession that allows you to earn a good living. But he warns that your purse, your wealth that comes from the practice of law, in that sense, the practice of law being using your intellectual skills and your capacity to articulate in writing and orally, to protect and increase the wealth of those who are already wealthy. What else does a lawyer do? That's what a lawyer does. Essentially, you work in a law firm, a client's going to come into the law firm. The client is about to lose money, or the client wants to buy a company to make more money, and your job is to help that happen. There's nothing evil in that. That's what people need to do. But Gandhi is saying that you must always bear in mind that the first thing is not to make your profession subservient to the interest of your purse. It is to use your profession in the service of your country. So you have to draw the line, and that's one of the interesting things. So what did I do? That little boy you saw decided that I should keep law in mind, and I went to Stanford University. And at Stanford University, as an undergraduate, and here we have to understand very briefly the difference between the U.S. educational system and the Indian or continental or British educational system. And the simplest way of explaining that is that in the U.S. educational system, from the age of 18 to 22, you're expected to engage in a 4-year liberal arts education, or liberal education it's called, where you can perhaps have a clear idea of what you want to do because you want to become a doctor, but you don't take courses in a medical school. You can make sure that you cover all the areas of biology and other subjects that are relevant to prepare you for medical school, but you don't study medicine. You don't study law. You don't study architecture. You follow a general curriculum for 4 years. Then you can decide on a professional school. That's not the same thing here. Here, you choose a profession for your undergraduate education, and then you add on to that later on, and you fill in with other subject matter. So that's the tough choice that we have to make here, is how do we understand the best use of the Indian educational system to be able to let your mind develop wherever it wants to go, while at the same time preparing you in case you want to pursue a professional career in the field of law. And that's where I was. So I was an undergraduate. I was taking courses in philosophy and history and all kinds of things. And I took a course once, an undergraduate course, on constitutional law. I said to myself, wow, this is really interesting, because here's what I'm observing. When I read the judgments of the Supreme Court of the United States, and the same thing is certainly true of the Supreme Court of India, I find learned individuals addressing the full range of issues that face a society. They might relate to psychology. They might relate to accounting. They might relate to chemistry. They might relate to the functioning of the criminal mind. They might relate to distributed justice. They can relate to all kinds of things. But the judge has to apply the law to the facts and understand deeply how those facts interact with the law. And I was fascinated by that. The other thing that fascinated me in taking this undergraduate course was that I was enthralled by the quality of language the judges use. And I noticed this is also true in reading judgments of the Supreme Court in India. There's something about the use of language at that level of legal reasoning that absolutely fascinated me. I said, wow, that's interesting. So let me give it a try. So I took the LSAT, and in the LSAT you're supposed to determine if you have an aptitude. Well, much of that aptitude is what we call legal reasoning. Are you capable of understanding a fact situation in a way that allows you to reach certain conclusions and express it in a language that communicates complex issues in ways that have consequences? So that's what I wanted to test. I went to law school, I went to Stanford Law School and tested that aptitude. And while there, I also found that the things that inspired me to change the world were not absent. I wasn't just studying torts, contracts, civil procedure, criminal law, and that sort of thing. I also had the opportunity to benefit from some of the finest international legal minds in the world. I took a course, well, this was not actually a lawyer, this is from one of the world's most famous political scientists, Hans Morgenthau, and took his course on politics among nations, in which my mind was opened up to the complexities of international relations. How do nations behave with one another? What are the different ways of understanding how they behave? And I took a course on international law from Julius Stone, a giant in legal reasoning that related international legal issues to deep philosophical issues. Absolutely fascinating. So I was enthralled by it. But I still was not enthralled by the traditional practice of law, by the profession that I was alluding to earlier, where your role and your paycheck comes because you're utilizing your mind to preserve and expand the wealth of those who have wealth. Obviously, the legal practice is more than that. You're taking pro bono cases, you're taking criminal law cases, and so on. But a good part of it is that. And that's not what interested me. It was what I was learning from Hans Morgenthau and Julius Stone that interested me. I had the great advantage at Stanford, however, to be part of the first Stanford in Washington program. And they sent me to Washington to actually have the title of Assistant Legal Counsel to the chair of the Senate Interior Committee. And I was working for Senator Thomas Kuchel. And a little sidelight here for those of you who are vaguely aware of politics in the United States. You may have heard of a man with orange hair who runs around saying strange things. So I don't know if you've heard of this. A fellow named Donald J. Trump, you heard of him? Yes, you've heard of him. Well, you've also probably observed in anything that you see about the politics in Washington that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are absolutely divided. That any decision that is going to be made for or against Trump is going to have 100 support, or almost 100% of the support of the Republicans, and will be opposed by 100% of the Democrats. Or if it's for impeachment of Donald Trump, it'll be 100% of the Democrats struggling against almost all the Republicans. That's beginning to shift a little bit. Well, one of the lessons, and this is not directly related to law to change the world, but it is related to my evolution as a young man trying to understand the role of law in the place where laws are adopted, was when I worked for Senator Kuchel. You've heard of all my commitments to Gandhi and to Martin Luther King and all of that. He's a Republican. He's a Republican at a time when an honest senator, member of the Republican Party, could be the co-manager of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1964 and 1965, respectively. These were the efforts 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, when law was being used in the United States to say, enough is enough. Time has come to ensure and use the full force of law so that African Americans enjoy all of their civil rights, and African Americans are not only theoretically allowed to vote, but are practically allowed to vote and express themselves politically. So this was an extraordinary revelation. I not only saw the functioning of the legislature from the inside, but I was able to work for a Republican senator who was on the right side of history. A Republican senator who was using law. And as I said, he's the co-manager on the floor, that means on the floor of the Senate, of the legislation that sought to transform the United States. So when the Civil Rights Act was adopted, I was there, president, and then I left. And I left the United States for 20 years. But pursuing the same thing, pursuing law to change the world, to take the title of this session. I went to Paris. And here was my reasoning then. I hope you'll find this of interest because it did occur to me. I was upset by two things. One was, of course, the lack of racial equality in South Africa, in the United States, and other parts of the world. The other was the transformation of the international system through decolonization. For you, when you were born, all of the former colonies were already free. They're struggling to get by. They're struggling to deal with the post-colonial situation. But almost no colonies exist anymore in the world. Colonies were struggling for liberation then, and the world was being transformed. We went from 50 members of the United Nations to 150 members. And when I left the United States and came to Europe, I said, there were two things that inspired me. One, I want to try to do something with my understanding of law and international relations to advance the cause of what we now call the Global South, of the recently independent countries, the decolonized countries. I wanted to be on their side. And the second thing was, the United States was engaged in what we call an imperialist war. Where was that? Cold War. There was another war, a real hot war. Where? I'm not hearing you. Where was this hot war going on? This is where the hot war was going on. The hot war was going on in Vietnam. And at that stage of my life, youth were mobilizing against the war in Vietnam. So those were the two causes that led me to want to continue studying law for social transformation when I went to Paris. The struggle against the war in Vietnam and the struggle for the rights of formerly colonized peoples. But law also played a role, and I'm showing two publications here by Richard Falk, who influenced me very much at the time and has remained a very close friend, who wrote on the international law and the United States' role in the Vietnam War. He, and his book Revisiting the Vietnam War and International Law, he was among the group of international lawyers who examined closely what the U.S. was doing from the perspective of the prevailing rules of law. So that was my position when I went to study law in Paris and had the enormous advantage of being able to study under some of the great names of international law at the time. I won't bore you with these individuals, but it turns out that does this work? Yes. This was the president of my thesis. His name was René Jean Dupuy, and he was at the highest opposition in France. He was a member of the Collège de France, and he was the head of the curatorium of the Hague Academy International. You don't get better than that. And these are two other judges, Judges Bajawi and Judges Nikos Valikos. I had the enormous privilege of having them and some other justices of the International Court of Justice be on the jury that examined my doctoral dissertation. So it was an enormous opportunity, and I went to the Hague Palace here. That's where the International Court of Justice meets, and that's also where the Hague Academy of International Law meets. And I studied under this man, Professor George Abissal, at the Hague Academy of International Law, and therefore was exposed to the thinking on global issues, utilizing the perspective of law. Another thing that happened at that time was the student insurrection of 1968. And again, the order prevailing in France, Japan, the United States, Mexico, and other countries around the world was being challenged massively by movements of students and workers. That also upset your concept of law. When they said, as you can see from this one poster, we are the power. So somebody said law is defined as by virtue of the determination of the sovereign zone. No, they're saying people power. Challenges the concept of law. And the other one that was very popular at the time, you can see this graffiti that says, it is prohibited to prohibit. In other words, restrictions, law that restrict, law being used to restrict freedoms. The whole idea underlying this was, no, we will not allow that. We prohibit prohibitions, restrictions on freedom. Okay, so that was my education. I thought law was relevant to the world. I did all those things. And then I went into a career. So how is law relevant to a professional life outside of the legal practice? Now, I'm going to, Raj, how much time do we have? Another 15 minutes. So if you're interested, I'll give you some of the highlights of what I was able to do with that education. So that education was law. Law, not only at Stanford Law School, but in Paris, and training programs at the Hague Academy of International Law, with my mind saying, I really care about decolonization. I really care about overcoming apartheid. I really care about ending the war in Vietnam, and so on. What is law got to do with it? So with that background, as a graduate in law, I went on to a career. And I started my career, and I was quite privileged to do so. I started my career with the founding, 50 years ago, of the International Institute of Human Rights, by a man whom I'm sure nobody has ever heard. Anybody here ever heard the name René Cassin? No, I didn't expect anybody. René Cassin also received the Nobel Prize. And he received the Nobel Prize for his having played the central role in the drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. 20 years after the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Remember the Charter said we faith in fundamental human rights and fundamental freedoms? Translating that into a legal instrument was one of the first tasks of the UN that resulted in the adoption in 1948 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The principal author of that used his Nobel Prize money to found an institute, International Institute of Human Rights. And I was privileged to be, as a young person, fresh out of school, I was on the staff of that organization. That got me started organizing conferences, editing journals and so on, where I was using my legal knowledge not to write contracts, not to litigate before judges, but to organize activities for educating about human rights, for advancing knowledge about human rights through, as I said, publications and symposia and conferences and so on. I went from there to UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Has anybody ever been to UNESCO? Please raise your hand. Anybody ever been to Paris, France? Okay, this is a whole new world for you. One of the things that you need to know about this is that we saw the Charter of the United Nations. You know the United Nations headquarters in New York. But the United Nations also consists of various agencies around the world. One of them is devoted to education, science, culture, and communication, and is located in Paris. And I worked for that institution for 10 years. And I utilized law. I was not in the legal office. I didn't draft contracts. I didn't deal with legal challenges to UNESCO and defending UNESCO against legal challenges. I dealt with promoting across the world international law and human rights and peace studies. We published a series of books called New Horizons in International Law. I had the extraordinary privilege of working with my director at the time on drafting a procedure that was adopted by governments that still allows UNESCO today to receive complaints from individuals and organizations that say, my human rights have been violated. I'm a teacher. I've been excluded from my school. Or I'm a poet, and my books have been banned. Or I'm a playwright, and I've been tortured in jail. These are violations of human rights in UNESCO's fields of competence. We established a procedure, and I had the privilege of being the first secretary to the committee that handles it. We drafted several international instruments, including a Declaration on Race and Racial Prejudice. I was also part of a mission to investigate human rights violations in the Palestinian-occupied territory. So these are many activities seeking to change the world through law, but it's not the traditional legal practice. My legal studies were essential to make me able to carry out those tasks. I went from there to the Ford Foundation, where I was able to, I'll give you a little example of it, because this shows you what life is like when you're in that type of world. When I was at UNESCO, we helped found the Inter-American Institute of Human Rights in San Jose, Costa Rica. We were very proud of it. We gave them $10,000 so they could create this institute. I thought we did that at UNESCO. Then I went to the Ford Foundation, and I found that, no, UNESCO didn't do that. We only thought we did. The Ford Foundation gave me $200,000, and I was then put in charge of the human rights portfolio of UNESCO to spend millions of dollars on worthwhile human rights projects all over the world. And, well, let me move on. I had quite a few other activities in my career that also allowed me to test whether or not my training in law and my lack of a traditional legal profession allowed me to advance positive change in the world. I was part of two peacekeeping missions in the United Nations. One in the Western Sahara, where I dealt with political prisoner issues, and the main one was in Cambodia. Cambodia had a transitional period in the early 1990s to go from civil war to a functioning government. And I was put in charge of the human rights component there, and as a result reflected on how, and worked with the Cambodian people on their new constitution to establish a new government that would be based on the rule of law and respect for human rights. So here was another experience in which my legal training was absolutely essential to be able to carry out my tasks. I went from there to Princeton University and then to Columbia University, where I had the great privilege of partnering with one of the foremost figures of international law. And I was called upon to direct, because of my experience in peacekeeping operations and at UNESCO, to direct the United Nations Studies Program. Another example of the use of law. But what did I do there? I utilized my knowledge of law not only to teach courses on the law and politics of the United Nations, peacekeeping operations, and that sort of thing, but also to create opportunities for students to go on internships in the UN, and UN offices all over the world. Because I had the contacts, I was able to use that. And then 20 years ago, I was hired to Harvard, where I directed the Center on Health and Human Rights. Now, let me conclude with some other great things. So in this, well, let me one more term about this. So here I was, moved from Columbia University, where I was at the law school and the School of International and Public Affairs, running the UN Studies program, dealing with students in law who also had that type of reasoning that I was talking about. And I came to a school of public health where people were trained in what? Epidemiology, biostatistics, medicine. They didn't understand things the same way my students did at Columbia. And I'm still grappling with that today. How do you make your understanding of law and of human rights as part of law and international law meaningful to people who are dealing with studying disease and injuries and organization of public health structures and so on? The right to health is a human right. How do you translate that into something meaningful for professionals in public health? And that's been my challenge for the last 20 years that I've been doing that in my current title as FXB Professor of Health and Human Rights, bringing law to public health. And this is, of course, transformative. I've been working recently on mental health and human rights. I've been working on tobacco control and human rights. I've worked on access to medicines and human rights. So you can see that all of those issues are addressed in a highly professional way by medical professionals and professionals in public health. But there's an advantage to be gained by having somebody there who is also addressing these issues from the legal, international legal and human rights perspective, which is what I've been doing on that range of issues that I just mentioned. So let me conclude with a few more quotes from more recent role models. Barack Hussein Obama inspired many of us as a leader in the United States. He had his limitations. I don't deny that at all. But it could also be inspiring when he said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And that's for youth especially, for the 16 and 17-year-olds that you are. That's what really is a powerful message. And that is the message, you put it in the advertising for this event, of Greta Thunberg. That's what she represents. She's saying, we can't wait. In fact, we have waited too long, and previous generations have destroyed this planet. We cannot wait. We are the change that we seek. It is up to us to make this change. Focusing your life solely on making a buck, here I come back to the traditional legal profession, necessary though it is, to be able to protect and expand the wealth of those who have wealth. That's necessary. But, he warned, focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a certain poverty and ambition. It asks too little of yourself, because it's only when you hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself that you realize your true potential. I think Obama was correct in that view. And it does, and he was also a lawyer. He's very well aware of the value of the traditional practice of law. But don't limit yourself to that. Making the buck is a poverty of ambition. Think greater than that. Another inspiring figure in the United States is somebody that most Indians have not heard of, although there's a very popular movie. Has anybody seen the movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, notorious RBG? No, people in India don't see that. It's very worth seeing. She also studied law, but kept these messages in mind about law to change the world. Fortunate I was to be alive and a lawyer when for the first time in the United States history it became possible to urge successfully before legislators and courts the equal citizenship stature of women and men as a fundamental constitutional principle. Before she became a judge, she was a lawyer, and she argued cases that went up to the Supreme Court of the United States that transformed the situation of women, transformed the legal recognition of the equality of rights between men and women. She did it using her brilliance as a lawyer. And that's why it's so worth watching the movie about her that was probably available on Netflix and other places. You can't spell truth without Ruth, one book said. So here's one final quote from RBG. If you just needed the skills to pass the bar, 2 years would be enough. But if you think of law as a learned profession, then a third year is an opportunity for, on the one hand, public service and practical experience, and on the other hand, to take courses that round out the law. Okay, that's because of the legal system in the United States. You finish your 4 years undergraduate, you do your 3 years of law. She says not enough. In the system here, a 3-year BS in legal studies is another way of achieving the same purpose that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is getting at there. But what are the challenges that face you in the future? I'm going to, after this, come to my conclusion. I told you about as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, apartheid in South Africa, segregation in the United States, the war in Vietnam. All of these issues totally consumed me. And I was constantly asking, what can I do about this? And will law, if I have an aptitude for law, help me accomplish anything? And I devoted my entire career to that. I've been doing that for 50 years. Today, you are confronted with the climate crisis. You are confronted with the fact that this planet will not survive, and civilization will not survive, unless radical change takes place in the next decade. And those changes are going to require a role of law like we've never seen before. So there is a challenge that is absolutely essential for youth to pay attention to. So I'll give due credit to the organizers of this event for having highlighted Greta Thunberg, because that's also part of her message, of the urgency of this. She's not addressing lawyers, though. I am. Potential future lawyers, or potential students of law. And this is one of the greatest challenges that you'll be facing. So, let me conclude with a few takeaway suggestions. The first one is, law has an ambiguous relation to justice. Law reflects existing power relations. We saw that. It's what apartheid is. Apartheid was legal. So when law is preserving the existing unjust power structures, law itself is unjust. And as King and Gandhi have said, your duty, your moral duty then is to disobey the law, to fight against the law. But we've also seen, I learned it very early on in my career, as I sat there and I'll never forget it, as President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. And I had a part of that, as I said, to Senator Kiko when I was working with it. Law can be a force for social change. Second takeaway I would suggest to you is that the study of law can prepare you to make lots of money, helping those with money to protect and expand their wealth. It's a legitimate profession. It is a decent profession. It is necessary in life to protect people's property rights, their ownership, to allow them to engage in complex business relations. And that is a legitimate role for the study of law. Most people who study law pursue it for that reason. However, law can also prepare you to be a problem solver and an agent for positive change. This was one of my biggest lessons, and I'll give credit to Oscar Schachter for having told me that. I showed you the picture of him at Columbia University. He was a senior official he ran the whole legal program at the United Nations, one of his jobs before he became a professor. And he said, why do we want lawyers in there as opposed to people who have studied advanced theories of international relations? We want lawyers in there because lawyers are problem solvers. Here's one of the advantages. So the two things I think that legal studies give you are to hone your facility with language, on the one hand, and to become a problem solver on the other. So a 3-year degree in legal studies may be an excellent way for a life using and understanding the role of law in society. And that's what I understand will be the next part of this program. So thank you very much for listening to me.